Warriors Now. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. That's Dalton Johnson. I'm Kareth Burke. We also see you in the comments, Tion Don, asking us a pretty good question. Hopefully, we will have time to get to that later. But Dalton, we just wrapped up at practice. We've got some big storylines to talk about, so let's get right into it. Jonathan Kuminga fined $35,000. That is a huge fine. But the explanation was he made contact with the referee. He kept pursuing. And this is what happened. He got this fine. He got ejected from that game in Portland. What do you think about this whole thing?
This is more than a slap on the wrist, Kerr. This is a hefty, hefty fine. First thought that comes to my mind is, good thing Jonathan Kuminga didn't take the qualifying offer. I mean, that new contract should help him pay that fine. But yeah, I think that it is kind of an example-setting moment for the preseason for Jonathan Kuminga, for the rest of the league, because I think, number one, pretty clear he was getting fouled, but you can't be that aggressive. He was in the face. The league language is that he made contact, and you can never make contact with an official. Simple as that. Right when JK hit the stanchion, arms up, you could see his clear frustration, but I do think that this is, before the regular season begins, setting an example to not just Jonathan Kuminga, but the rest of the league as far as appropriate conduct with referees.
Yeah, that was my read on it too. This actually feels like a signal sort of thing. So interesting that there was only one technical and then boom, the ejection, and then this huge fine that followed, saying like, okay, guys, we need to have this sort of distance at the very start of the season. But you're right. You said it was a foul. It was a chippy game to begin with. And I noticed afterward that Steve Kerr stood up for Jonathan Kuminga post-game, saying he thought it was a foul too, saying he loved JK's fire. What did you think about that moment for Kerr?
I think it's huge. I really do think that's great to see Steve Kerr be such a leader as a coach, which he always is, no doubt about it, but to silence any kind of outside talk when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga is just going to be another confidence boost for Jonathan Kuminga after what was a tumultuous offseason, not because of Jonathan Kuminga, not because of Steve Kerr, but just the way that contract negotiations go. We know it, Karis. We talked about it ad nauseum, right? So I think for Steve Kerr to come out when it's the first moment of maybe adversity for Jonathan Kuminga on the court since that contract has been signed, he goes out and says, no, you know what? I love to see that fire out of my guy. He played great. It's a learning experience, but he showed the kind of fire that we want to see out of Jonathan Kuminga, and I'm okay with it. So I think from a leadership standpoint, Steve Kerr understands this as well as any coach in the NBA, and really as well as any coach, I think, out of all American sports as well.
Well, Dalton, adding to that, he didn't just say, he said he kind of liked it.
Right, yeah.
That's what he said. Like, you can imagine the little smirk on Steve Kerr's like, I kind of likes it. But JK was having that type of game. He started that game, 18 minutes, 7 points, 6 rebounds, very important, 4 assists, 2 turnovers in that one. And that funnels into a conversation about Jonathan Kuminga this year. Will he be connected on both sides of the ball? Will he always be engaged? And when that is happening, is he rebounding? Is he making great passes? And we're seeing that right now in the preseason.
Kareth, Jonathan Kuminga right now through 4 preseason games ranks second on the Warriors in rebounds and second on the Warriors in assists as well. And this is after a game where he literally could only play the first half. And in the first 4 preseason games, he's mostly just playing the first half as well. So I think those little details that can take JK and the Warriors to great heights are really standing out in such positive ways right now for Jonathan Kuminga. He's running the floor. He's playing aggressive. His eyes are up on offense. He's active on defense. So I think really this is the blueprint that Steve Kerr and the Warriors have laid out for Jonathan Kuminga from day one. So all positives that I'm seeing for the most part from Jonathan Kuminga. Are there some turnovers? Yeah, there are, but it's also the preseason. I think we have to focus on the positives outweighing the negatives for Jonathan Kuminga easily right now in the preseason.
And it's such a bummer that Jimmy Butler has been missing some of these games with his ankle injury, because a lot of people, including the team, not just the fan interest here, wants to see Jonathan Kuminga and Jimmy Butler, and how are they together when they're on the floor? What do they each bring individually? And that's something that JK is pretty aware of. When you think back to last season, when Jonathan Kuminga had that very long ankle injury, that serious ankle sprain, he came back to a team where Jimmy Butler was here and Jimmy Butler was transforming the team. So it was like Jonathan Kuminga played on one team the start of the season and a totally different team the second season. And it was like there wasn't as much room for him to play as much when Jimmy Butler transformed things. So how do they coexist this season? And that's something that Jonathan Kuminga addressed at Media Day.
And I think it's very important that we all here now early, trying to figure each other out. And I feel like we actually did, going through that series. It's very easy and simple to play with Jimmy. And we actually get to sit down more now. I get to go ask him certain questions. How does he like to play? What does he like? Because I don't see it not working. And I feel like just us having a lot of time together, me being healthy, him being healthy, and being here from day one, like training camp-wise, it's going to help us, figuring out certain things about each other, just going forward.
It's positive that they get to build a relationship now from the very start of this season. Last season seemed so unique with the length of Jonathan Kuminga's injury and then Jimmy Butler's arrival. Now they have it's almost like a reset. They can get to know each other in training camp at the start of the season. And it feels like this could be really positive.
I believe so too, Kerr. Earlier in the preseason, we did see Jonathan Kuminga and Jimmy Butler on the floor together. And Steve Kerr was honest that there still are some spacing issues, that it's going to be clunky, especially when you throw in Draymond Green there. When the three of them on the floor together, that's three, I don't want to say non-shooters, but none of those three are real outside shot, threats, 3-point threats. They aren't there. Someone like Al Horford helps with that. Someone like Steph Curry always helps with that, of course. But it is crucial to have these guys together just from the jump, to get to know each other better, to be more comfortable with each other, to bounce ideas off of each other. Because the moment that Jimmy Butler got here, we saw that he was very talkative and bouncing ideas off of the coaching staff with his teammates. Yeah, I can already see starting to crack when I said that right there, Kerr. But you know what I mean. As far as I think that it's just good for them to be around each other in general, be on the road with each other, be at practice, be on the bench even during games together. So I think realistically, when you look at their fit, I think when the Warriors are fully healthy, Jonathan Kuminga will play all the minutes that Jimmy Butler doesn't play. That right there in a game is about 12 to 16 minutes right there. And then you just look at a pure talent standpoint, and you do need to find stretches where they can play together. Because from a talent standpoint, they are two of the Warriors' top players. So if you can sprinkle in an extra 4-minute little spans or things like that where it makes sense to have them together with who else is surrounding them, with shooters surrounding them as well, then I think that you're talking about a real combination. But when it's Jonathan Kuminga, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, we're just seeing the NBA is now 3, 4, 5 out when it comes to offense. The Warriors need to be able to catch up and be at least 4 out. With Al Horford now, they can be 5 out, but not really with Jonathan Kuminga. So it's still going to be an interesting fit nonetheless, no matter in season trade or beginning of the season as well.
You mentioned a few occasions where Jonathan Kuminga would get those spot starts, and you're right, with an aging roster, they are going to need his legs. They're going to need his downhill force to attack the rim. So sometimes he'll be playing with Jimmy, sometimes he won't. The traveling or Kerr says, hopefully I pronounced your name right, can you please start JK over Draymond? I don't think it would be like a hierarchy like that. I think it'll be a necessity thing. And that reminds me, was there one game or 2 games last season where Draymond, it was actually let's see what this looks like. It was one last season.
Yeah.
But even that was a pretty big storyline. Give the young player the reins, see what he can do because he needs that time. And the start of last season for Jonathan Kuminga was the best of his career.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There are going to be nights where Jonathan Kuminga starts. Those are going to be nights that I expect that Jimmy Butler is out. Throughout the season, I think Steve Kerr would love to get more cohesion when it comes to the starting 5. This is a team that you had to use 38 different starting lineups last season. You obviously want that number to go down. But based on the age of the Warriors, based on matchups, we're just going to see nights where Jonathan Kuminga is going to have to be a starter. Who that's next to, we'll see. That's more of the question mark right now. But even when he's not starting, he is still going to be a key contributor for this Warriors team. He has things that the rest of the roster just clearly doesn't have. The athleticism, as you brought up, Kareth, the downhill attack, and just truly the age. I mean, it's a much better balance, I think, now compared to like maybe 2 years ago when we really were talking about this whole two timelines thing. But now I know it's still like almost like a curse word.
I can't hide my face, Dalton. I can't.
I know.
I feel like for 5 years we've been talking
it's
about
rough.
the timeline.
It's rough. Yeah, but I think that it's kind of caught up closer now. When you look at year 5, Jonathan Kuminga, year 5, Moses Moody, what Brandon Pajemski brings to the table right away, and now year 3 as well. So I just think it's closer to what you really want when it comes to balance of youth and veterans alike.
All right, looking at some of the comments and what you're saying, like, there are many ways where the Warriors need Jonathan Kuminga, and there might be some situations where they would consider trading him. Max is predicting JK is not finishing this year as a Warrior. That's interesting. And then DV wanted to turn the conversation to Steph Curry. This is perfect because that was my next transition right there. He wants to know, will Steph be the scoring champ this season with this new rule that should send him to the free throw line much more? Okay, let's dig into that new rule, right? It's the high five rule. So when a player is going through their shooting motion, the last desperate thing a defender can do after that shot is off is try to interrupt the curve of their arm or hit them right here. Just give them that little tap that referees don't often call. Bloop. Except for this year. And it is interesting that Steph got to the line 13 times, made a dozen of those shots. So, yeah, I mean, early sample size here, but this is definitely a rule that could help Steph.
Oh, it's really going to benefit Steph and the rest of the Warriors. Steve Kerr was adamant last season about his anger when it came to the follow-through, hitting him on his hand, hitting him on his wrist. Think about how many defenders did that to Steph Curry, especially when he had that sprained thumb last season.
Yes.
That was obvious. Like, let's go right after that. Remember Dylan Brooks in the playoffs and basically said, yeah, if they're not going to call it, I'm going to keep doing it. Well, now refs have to call it. They have to call this new high five rule. The Coaches Association was a big part of that. But Steph Curry, I mean, second game in the preseason, it opens up 4-point play. Then just last night against Portland, 3-point play. I mean, 3 free throws right away at the beginning of the game for Steph Curry. You mentioned 13 free throws. Kareth, how many times last season did Steph Curry attempt 13 or more free throws? Once. That's it. He had one game in the regular season where he attempted 13 or more free throws. I think that he's going to have several of those this season. He continues to get stronger. He continues to be more of a force around the rim instead of what just people call him as the greatest three-point shooter of all time. But guess what? He still is the greatest three-point shooter of all time, and people are terrified of him beyond the arc. So they're going to be aggressive on that follow-through. And hopefully, for the Warriors' sake, the refs will abide by the rule and blow their whistle. And if you're seeing games of double-digit free throw attempts for Steph Curry, I mean, yeah, he's going to average near 30 points per game because he's always going to shoot over 90% from the free throw line. It's huge for Steph Curry, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, and if Steph is getting to the line at that clip, and this is interesting, I almost want to make a prediction here. So you said he attempted 13 free throws once last season? Once. I do remember a lot of those conversations. The word purity comes up, that his scoring is pure because it's not coming from the line, which is interesting. That's a part of the game. But then you have these free throw merchants and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, okay, I digress. But it's been pretty wild that Steph's points have come from the three, without a huge help from the free throw line. Now you're going to throw the free throw line in there. Very interesting. There's lots of avenues that we can walk down with our mind. Okay. What if Steph averages 30 this year? Kind of reminds me of his MVP seasons. Do you feel the same?
Yes, I did just write an article on NBCSportsBay.com basically outlining like the path to where Steph Curry could win his third MVP, but not only win his third MVP, but he would become the oldest player in NBA history to win MVP. The oldest ever is Karl Malone in 1999 when he was 35 years old. But you know what? Number one, that was a lockout season. Karl Malone only had to play 49 games. I'm going to give it to MJ the year before when he was 34. Steph Curry is already 3 years older than that. He's 30. He's going into his age 37 season, will be 38 in March. But I start off my point by actually bringing up that high five rule because I think it's going to be that important for Steph Curry. And then I bring up another change in where we talk about purity of Steph Curry, that he's an honest hooper. Well, another reason why he is that honest hooper is because end of quarters, end of halves, Steph isn't scared to let it just go from almost full court, from half court, from wherever. But starting this season, the heaves 36 feet or more in the final 3 seconds of the first 3 quarters will no longer count against an individual player's field goal percentage. That now will go against a team's overall field goal percentage. So that's just another way where Steph Curry can now be in the low to mid 40% from 3-point range, fewer misses as well. So it's just more things to incentivize Steph to be the hooper that he already is from long distance. So those are my first 2 things. Number 2, of course, is just health. It's going to be the MVP of Steph Curry. It's going to be the MVP of the Warriors. And Steph, the last 2 seasons, has averaged 72 games per season. I think more ideally, you're looking at the MVP seasons of like the first Jokic MVP season and Joel Embiid. So that's 66 to 72 games. If he can play 68 games and really have those be 68 high impact game for the Warriors, that's huge. But the Warriors have to do their part. They need to win with and without Steph Curry. I'm like, the number I'm looking for is 50 wins, Kareth, because that right there would be, that was tied for the number 3, 4, and 5 seed in the West last season. And also, quick history lesson. The Warriors have reached the NBA Finals every single season that they have won 50 games under Steve Kerr. That's a huge barometer for them right there. And I think if you win 50 or more games, you're looking at a real MVP conversation. And finally, if he has the stats that he had when Jimmy Butler arrived, with all those things going on, with the health, with the Warriors winning, then yeah, Steph Curry has a road to at least the ballot right there. He went from averaging 23.8 points before Jimmy Butler arrived to 27.3 points. The jolt of life that we saw out of Steph Curry is exactly like the same numbers, comparable or even better than his first MVP season a decade ago, Kareth. So yes, will he be the favorite? No. But do you want to doubt Steph Curry and go against him? No. Do not do that. There is a path still to Steph Curry again rewriting the history books.
All right, so a little bit of help with some of these rule changes because Steph likes those heaves and he makes them. So that's interesting. I mean, what if he could be a 40% 3-point shooter again? So help, spacing, okay, the new additions to the roster, and health, very, very important. I'm not willing to say like, yeah, he could be a dark horse MVP yet. I don't know. Let's see how the season plays out. And then you have little Jay saying, I still have SGA of OKC.
Yeah, of course.
Average 30. Yeah. That guy might be the
He's
favorite.
Not the favorite. I get it.
He's not the favorite. But no, it is fun to go down those mental walks. Like, is this possible? And I think with Steph, I never rule anything out. Dalton, of course, we've spent so much of this preseason talking about the age of the roster and the health of the roster. Naturally, that was a question that Steph Curry got during the preseason.
You gotta pay attention to it for sure. Acknowledge what makes your team, what character it has to obviously play. Have the expectation that we're gonna be capable of beating everybody and anybody on any given night. But to your point, the endurance of 82. I think last year the biggest thing was we don't want to be in a position where you're chasing down the stretch of the season. Like if you could at all be in control of that, where the last 2 months, even though we had a great record, it felt like every game was a playoff game for 2 straight months, and then you transition into a very tough 7-game series, and then you're 48 hours from a round 2, game 1. Like it was a very condensed, high level of basketball, and so we want to be able to try to get through the 82 with a little bit more of a ability to kind of control the ebbs and flows of it. How we get there, like we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. But Steph and company really seem eager to figure that out. With age also comes experience, and there could be a lot of good things that come from age too. I was listening to an interview with Draymond where he was talking about how in year 14 or 15 for him, I think it's 14.
14, yeah.
It's the process. You have to be in love with the process to get your body ready. It takes at least an hour to warm up now at their age. And we get to see a little bit of like the behind the scenes. We get to see that the players are in the weight room before games and they are in the weight room after games. So they're tuning up their body and then they're cooling down their body. And then you see, the players with the things on their legs that are like ice packs that go from hip to toes, like I wish I knew what this was called. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, there are certain ones, different companies. I used to use one in college called Game Ready, but like it's literally just like it's a compression almost of like ice and water. That's like bringing it together. It's really interesting. Yeah,
that kind of stuff. But just like to get ready to even play. And I've also been meaning to catch Steph off to the side just to joke with him. Like, how do you feel now not being the oldest guy in the locker room? I bet you've been like overjoyed. But you can see he's got a little gray in the beard right now too. But Al Horford joining this team at age 39, his 19th season. And he kind of walked us through a little bit deeper how he ended up at Golden State. He said, with the Celtics, they got a taste of that championship in 2024. But then Jason Tatum blew out his Achilles. And this season for the Celtics is going to be a lot different. So as Al Horford was talking about his future, he said retirement was really never on the table, but he wanted to pick somewhere where he thought he could win another championship. And he looked at Golden State and he saw it here. That's really interesting that the age of this team didn't scare away another older player.
Look, credit to Steve Kerr, credit to Jimmy Butler, credit to Draymond Green. But to me, like this is example A of the Steph Curry factor. It doesn't matter that he's 37 years old going on 38. Everybody around the league still feels like if you play next to him, you have a chance on any given night. If you get into the dance of the playoffs, you have a chance because Steph Curry, number 30, is on your side. And I truly believe that, of course, Al Horford put those other pieces into consideration, playing for a coach, a Hall of Fame coach like Steve Kerr, future Hall of Famers and Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler as well. But when you have Steph, this is what it can do for a player who is so smart, like Al Horford, and who has had even more playoff experience than Steph, than Jimmy, than Draymond Green, who has gone against those guys so much in the playoffs. Think about the battles that he had against the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler. Think about, obviously, the 2022 NBA Finals against the Warriors. So I'm so curious also to wonder what Al Horford learned from that losing experience in the NBA Finals and what he was able to carry that as a champion with the Celtics as well. And now be at this part of his career and go, you know what? If there's one other team that I need to be with to end my career, it's that team. The team that beat me in 2022, the team that I rebounded from and won a championship in Boston. And now I believe I can go out and win another one with the Warriors. Really interesting stuff from Al Horford right there, Karen.
Gotta talk about that hunger. I might even call it an obsession that one, some players never in a very illustrious career win a championship. Al Horford got one in 2024. That's awesome. And now that you've had a taste of one, as you think about the twilight of your career, what is the hunger like for another one? So I just think when he is assessing, a very smart basketball player is assessing what Golden State has to offer. Okay, this team could be something this year. It's all predicated on health. But I also think the team, as we talked to Steve Kerr, we talked to some of the guys about the spacing. What a stretch five like Horford can do to help this team. Everybody seems very eager to have this, and suddenly you have this magical stretch five. And Quinton Post was a little bit of it last season. He can shoot the three, but that's tough for a rookie to step into that role. If they have a stretch five for spacing on the floor, it benefits everyone.
Oh, it really does. It reminds me almost of like this combination back in the day for the Warriors of almost combining the forces of Andrew Bogut and Mo Spates, right? Like the smarts, the defense, the passing that Andrew Bogut.
Why not? Andrew Bucket.
I was thinking of Mo Buckets right there. That's why Mo Spates, Mo Buckets was next. So, but it's Andrew Bogut with the buckets of Mo Spates that can, extend the floor at that size is huge. But it's the fact that he's not just a three-point shooter. It's the fact that he can be a hub as far as passing the ball, as far as still his defense, the way that he's 39 years old and can still switch out to wings. Do I think it's someone that you put on the quickness of a John Morant? Probably not, no. But this is a wing-oriented league, and Al Horford could jump out to the wings knowing that Draymond Green's behind him. That's what's huge. I think the IQ, the experience of Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, and Al Horford behind anybody is going to be just a confidence boost, whether it's Steph Curry and Brandon Pajemski, whether it's Steph and Buddy, Steph and Moses, whoever's next to Steph Curry, those two guards can feel so comfortable knowing that those are the three behind them. But yeah, having the space from three-point shooting, the passing out of the post that Al Horford provides, the defense, it's just someone that the Warriors truly have never had the combination of all those different skill sets for a big man like that. I mean, they've been waiting for this, Kareth.
Yeah, waiting a very long time. Finally, it's here. It is an old locker room, but we'll see what they can all bring together. Final preseason game for the Warriors is tomorrow. It's against the Clippers. Steve Kerr was giving an update about Moses Moody, and he even fast-forwarded all the way to the season opener against the Lakers, saying it's looking unlikely that Moses Moody will be able to play in the season opener. What a shame that this calf injury got him right now in training camp, and I really hope it doesn't set Moses back too much because he was looking great.
It sucks because it felt like Moses Moody finally had kind of truly cemented his role with the Warriors, with Steve Kerr's system, especially after the Jimmy Butler trade. We saw that he kind of took on being the point of attack, on-ball defender, and almost like a badge of honor, almost like pride. Like, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to hound this guy, and I'm going to earn the respect of everybody by being this defender. And then he was knocking down his three-point shot. We remember what he did this first preseason game, Kareth, and it was like, oh, Moses is ready.
Moody.
Like we've talked, just about Jonathan Kuminga in the offseason because of the contract. And then Moses is always kind of quiet, lurking in the shadows and going, oh yeah, don't forget about this guy as well. So it's a tough blow to Moses Moody and the Warriors alike, because I think about this first game of the regular season against the Lakers, who, if you don't have Moses Moody next to Steph Curry, who do you put next to him to take on that role of guarding a Luka Doncic? Because you don't have DeAnthony Melton as well. So now it's okay. Do you just go out and see what you have with Brandon Pajemski, or do you go fully matchup and maybe even put a Gary Payton II out there? Mm-hmm. I mean, also, this last preseason game, Will Richard, he was in the starting lineup, the rookie, and Steve Kerr today and after the game has been effusive about his praise with Will Richard. Another one of those guys who just understands the game, plays the game right. The ball flows. He cuts to the basket offensively and defensively. He has that wingspan, that length, super aggressive, but just a smart overall player. So it'll be interesting to see what Moses Moody's absence means for the rotations in that regular season opener. But you just hope that this is a very short-term absence for Moses Moody.
Yeah, and Tion Don, at the very start of the show, he was in the comments, so I got to give a shout out right there. And one of his questions was, which Warrior do you think will have that breakout season that will surprise everybody? And it was Moses Moody. That was my first answer there. I hope he gets that opportunity, because this is your 5 for Moses Moody, and he's taken very seriously some gains on the defensive end. He wants to be that point of attack defender. When Andrew Wiggins left, Moses took on more defensively. He's going to start guarding some of the other team's best players, and he's going to try to do it 94 feet, whatever the team needs in that moment. My answer was Moses. What do you think? Who's somebody who might have a breakout season?
I think Moses is a really good call right there, especially if this is a 1-2 game absence and he stays healthy, he gets right back into the fold of things and does what he did after the Jimmy Butler trade. But another player who really stood out to me after the Jimmy Butler trade was Brandon Pajemski. I just think that we've seen the little things that Steve Kerr raves about, that he loves that Brandon Pajemski brings to the table, the connecting factor, and that's always going to be there for Brandon. We've even seen it in the preseason, the nose he has for the ball, the way that the ball just doesn't stick to his fingers. He has so many of what they call like the hockey assist, like the pass before the assist, just because he sees the way things work when it comes to spacing. But I really think if Brandon Podziemski can become more of a scoring threat, we saw it 2 preseason games ago, I believe it was, when he went out and was 10 of 16 overall. He had 23 points. I think he was 3 of 7 from 3-point range. But it was the fact that ball was in his hands and he was letting it go from 3. He made a 3 from the top of the arc, the left wing, the right wing. He was crafty around the rim because he's so good with that because he understands who he is as an athlete, and he even had a little bit of the mid-range jumper going too. So I think we talked all about Jonathan Kuminga's contract in the summer. I think we might have to start talking about Brandon Podziemski's contract for a rookie extension this next summer because of the breakout season Pods could have for the Warriors this season.
Right. You posted Pods' shot chart from the other night, didn't you? Did I remember seeing
I did, yes.
Yeah. And one of the things that's going to keep Pods on the floor is the fact that he knows how to play alongside Steph. For other guys, sometimes they just don't get it. They stand in Steph's spots or they're too slow to move around. Pods has figured that out, and that is going to keep him on the floor. All right, as we think about tomorrow, Friday, the last preseason game against the Clippers, something awesome is happening.
Quinton Post reveals what Stephen Curry did that mattered more than scoring. Quinton Post is quickly becoming one of the most intriguing young talents on the Golden State Warriors roster. In his rookie season, he quietly made a name for himself, shooting an impressive 40.8% from three-point range and averaging 8.1 points per game. As a modern stretch big, he's carved out a valuable role in the Warriors rotation, and he's not done yet. During the preseason, Post continued to show his offensive potential, especially in a standout performance against the Portland Trail Blazers where he dropped 16 points, including 3 three-pointers. But when asked about his recent success, Post didn't take the credit for himself. Instead, he pointed to one major factor: Stephen Curry. "What you saw out there, that's just the effect of having Steph Curry on the floor," Post said. "He makes everything so much easier for everyone on offense. And defensively, I think we handled things much better than the last time we faced them." The game marked Curry's return after missing the previous matchup against the Lakers. And he didn't disappoint, putting up 28 points and leading the Warriors to a 118-111 win over Portland. "This was a big statement game for him," Post added. "He sat out last game, and then came back and just took over. He said something before tip-off that really stuck with me. But more than anything, it's his leadership, the way he sets the tone, that makes the biggest difference." While Curry leads the way offensively, Post is focused on improving where it really matters for his position: rebounding. Despite his offensive contributions, Post pulled down only 2 defensive rebounds in the game, not enough, he admits, for a player in his role. "We did a better job controlling the pace, but we still had too many turnovers. And on defense, I'm not even sure what the rebounding numbers were. I just know I need to be better. That's my priority right now, becoming a more effective rebounder." Last season, Post faced criticism for his defensive inconsistency. He knows that if he wants to keep growing and solidify his role long-term, that's the area he has to improve. Fortunately, he's not doing it alone. With the mentorship of Al Horford, who shares a similar playing style as a stretch 5, Post is in the right environment to evolve. If he continues to develop, especially on the defensive end, Quinton Post could be a key piece in the Warriors' rotation for years to come. And with Steph Curry leading by example, he's got one of the best blueprints in the game to learn from. But what makes Post's comments so striking isn't just his humility, it's the deeper acknowledgement of how Stephen Curry continues to reshape the game without always needing to light up the scoreboard. For a young player like Post, recognizing the power of Curry's off-ball move, leadership, and court gravity shows a level of maturity that's catching the attention of coaches and analysts alike. Internally, sources close to the team say the coaching staff has been impressed with Post's approach during training camp. While his shooting numbers draw the headlines, it's his willingness to learn and take ownership of his weakness, like rebounding and defensive, that's earned him growing respect in the locker room. In particular, his openness about needing to improve on the glass has resonated with veterans like Draymond Green and Kevin Looney, who have both taken on mentoring roles with him in recent weeks. During practices, Post has been seen working closely with assistant coaches focusing on boxing out drills, rebounding reads, and interior footwork, a sign that he's committed to rounding out his game. Outside of the Warriors camp, Post's preseason performance and his comments about Curry sparked interest across NBA media. Analysts on national shows highlighted the quote about Curry making everything easier, using it as yet another example of the intangible impact the two-time MVP has on his teammates. Former players and commentators have also pointed out that this kind of awareness, especially from a rookie, is rare, and could signal that Post has the mindset to stick in the league. "You don't hear a lot of young bigs talking like that," said one analyst during a post-game breakdown. "He understands the game beyond just stats. That's huge." Looking ahead, the Warriors see Post as a potential long-term piece, someone who can eventually fill a similar role to Al Horford, a smart, versatile big who stretches the floor, moves the ball, and plays within the system. If he can elevate his rebounding and improve his defensive reads, he may even find himself closing games down the line. For now, though, Post remains focused on the next step. "There is still so much I need to work on," he said after the win over Portland. "But being around guys like Steph, Draymond, Looney, it's helping me grow faster. I just want to keep earning my minutes." As the regular season approaches, all eyes will be on whether Post can carry his preseason momentum into meaningful games. And if he does, with Curry still drawing defenders and opening lanes, the Warriors might have found a valuable new weapon hiding in plain sight.